Hello, my name's Derek James, and I'm here with my good friend Zhu Zhang, John Zhu Zhang, and he's going to introduce himself in a moment. And what we're here to speak about, really, it's about what people are looking to do after the pandemic lockdowns have finished, because a lot of people are moving either into education or out of education, hoping to get a job. They're looking to put together CVs, or if you're American, a resume. And it's the how do you do it in a post-pandemic world where everybody's looking for the same job or the same opening. That's the climate that people are going to be in. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be speaking about CVs from a slightly different perspective, because we're speaking about CVs from the perspective of being on the inside of an industry. And the reason why I'm saying it like that is that you can go to some classes where they'll teach you how to do a resume or teach you how to do a CV. But my experience of those type of classes is that, to use an English phraseology, they're not fit for purpose. They tend not to work, and that is sometimes because the people that are giving you the CV advice or the resume advice aren't speaking from the premise of being inside a specific industry. Now, we're going to be speaking a bit about online CVs. In other words, you upload your CV, your resume, to a computer-based system like monster.com or whatever it happens to be, versus referrals. And we were just speaking before the recorder was switched on about how the job that you were on yesterday came through a referral.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And yeah, referrals are different. Referrals are different to you using any other form of mechanism to get in front of people. And the reason for that is this: a referral is somebody saying, we want that person, will you bring him into a project? So really what we're doing is we're speaking about that being the premise from which your CV is going to operate from. That's the primary premise. We're going to be speaking about different types of things, but what we're going to be trying to pull it back to is this idea of you being on the inside, so that when you then have this job opening, you're taking it from the premise of the person that you're actually speaking to, for some reason or another, knows you. Okay, as opposed to you sending a CV out, you sending a resume out, and you're hoping that you land a 6. If 1,000 people are all going for the same job, then your chance of getting that job through a traditional method is going to be 1 in 1,000. If 20,000 people are going for a job, then your potential for getting that job is going to be 1 out of 20,000. Those odds aren't good, because you're not in the driver's seat. Now, I was approached a few months ago by a friend, and he put my name forward for teaching at a college. My situation is such that I'm having to look after somebody who's got cancer at the moment, and so because of that, me being able to go into work as per usual is not that easy. And what I've also had to do is I've had to set myself up so that I am a remote teacher. When the coronavirus hit us, everybody understood what that meant, and then there was the lockdown, and the lockdown was supposed to be 2 weeks, and then it went to 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and then almost 7 months later, it's still on lockdown. But more than we're still on lockdown 7 months later, the whole industry of teaching has been turned on its head, and everybody has to teach remotely. So I have been setting myself up to become a remote teacher because of this cancer situation, and coronavirus turned up, and it made what I was doing more like the logical next step for me anyway. And within that process, and you happen to know about this because I was looking for a way in which I could get myself some work, and I went through a few things where the idea was to send in a CV, and then it just wasn't working. Then John turned up, another John. So there's John Yu, and then there's John Salzman, who had put me in front of some educators and said, yeah, I want to get Derek in to teach. And I was speaking to these people as the result of a referral. It's really that simple. And that process is completely different. So what I want us to do now, I'm going to give you the introduction, and then I want you to speak, because you had a website which had your profile on it.
Yeah.
And the website that had your profile on it was able to land you a number of jobs.
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Yeah. So you have been acting in Marvel's Doctor Strange. You were acting not only in Marvel's Doctor Strange, the
Eternals as well, which is out in November next year.
Yeah, because they've pushed that back a year. You've also been in The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie.
Yes.
Now, the reason why I'm quoting those 3 jobs, not the other stuff that you've done, but those, is because they came as a result of you doing a website where people were looking for you or your type.
Yeah.
You fitted a specific that they were looking for. And it wasn't an agent that got you the job. It wasn't you knocking doors. It wasn't someone trying to find work. You were on the inside from day one.
Yeah, so I can talk about this. So,
yeah, that's great.
So, hi everyone, my name is Dr. John Shearzang, and I'm based in Oxfordshire. So I'm an actor, stunt performer, martial arts instructor, more recently author, and I've just released a piano album, so it's been a very busy time during lockdown. I've been in the film industry for about 10 years now, and it's been a hell of a ride, as you know, we've been through it together.
Yeah.
But with my website, so I've put myself on, just created a website. Didn't think many people would look at it, but I would just update it regularly with things that I was doing with all my interests. So whether it be music, my film and television appearances, you know, I would do a little write-up about it, and some photographs. I would then talk about my martial arts as well, my tuition, seminars, as well as my own training, upload some videos. And then from my website, I would branch out to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and for a short while, Twitter. And fortunately, I was approached through my website for projects such as Fast and Furious's Hobbs and Shaw, which came directly through the contact form of my website. And the same thing with Marvel Eternals and a few other projects, to name a few. And even ITV's Take Me Out came through Facebook. So it was all about, normally as an actor you have the official channels that you might go through, your if you have an agent, for instance, who sources the jobs for you, or if you are on websites such as Spotlight, or even Star Now and Mandy, or Casting Call Pro. There are some channels there where you can find jobs where you can apply for them. So I was very fortunate with all the big jobs that I've had the pleasure of working on. They came to me directly, and sometimes it is through word of mouth. Someone referred me to someone else who then went up the channels and then referred me further, and then they found me through Google, or if they, on Hobbs and Shaw, for instance, when I got an email saying, "Hi, would you be interested in applying for an audition? Because we're looking for people like you."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay, this will be interesting. And then when I got there the next day at the studio to audition, there was Fast and Furious everywhere. So I thought, oh, it's probably a Fast and Furious film.
Yeah.
Then the stunt coordinator said to me, actually, we were looking for large Asians who could do martial arts and who could move. And we found you through a Google search. And the first thing that I said was, what on earth were you searching for? But so because of that, it very much is. It's not so much. I know it's very much of a cliche. It's not what you know; it's who you know. But it's also who knows you.
That's the one.
And then you can sell what you know.
That's the one.
So it's very important. And then with my website, at the time I had maybe 50 views per month. For me, it was never the quantity of views, but the quality of the views. It
Quality
was
of the views,
it's like, and you never know who's watching you. So I was approached by a Special Forces instructor out in the States. And he contacted me through my website also about doing some lessons to teach some of his troops, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the more I spoke with him, the more he said, actually, the more I got to know him, he revealed to me that he had been watching me on my website and through my social media channels for about a year before he got in touch.
Yeah.
Him and some of his other his other colleagues,
Yeah.
So they had been watching my activities on social media and on my website for a whole year before they got in touch with me.
Yes.
And I mean, they were looking for consistency, but also in terms of my martial arts, for instance, they were looking to see my variety, creativity, the diversity of what I'd be able to offer them.
Yeah.
Now, and it's the same thing with film work, or as a performer. I do have a lot of varied interests, which I like to explore. So that makes me a very diverse individual who can offer a variety of different things, who can fit into different molds. And when you do a good job for someone, chances are they're going to remember you for another job.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
When I was working on 47 Ronin, which is my first film, the audition was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And one of the stunt coordinators, Vincent, invited me back for 24, and he invited me back for Dr.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I get shot. And for some of those who've seen my work, that happens a lot. So I'm really good at getting shot. But because of that, there's trust. There's a pre-existing relationship where if someone's worked with you before and they know you can do the job, should they need to find someone for a specific job, they'll have you in mind for that. So that's incredible. Once you have an in, then it's up to you to make a good impression.
Yes.
And then slowly everything unfolds. But one thing I would always say is don't depend on that one relationship.
No.
I think make as many as you can and continue working on your own craft. So I've never been one to wait next to the phone for it to ring from my agent. I've never waited for my agent to contact me. So a lot of things were either self-sourced or referrals from other friends or other people who I've worked with. So that's really important. And here's the thing: even if it is done through referral, and I still have to audition, that I will still do the audition. I didn't get the job. They had me in mind for the job. But I still have to show that I'm capable of doing it. So for the Eternals, for instance, it was someone on Doctor Strange who I'd worked with. She saw I believe she saw a casting of some sort, and she put my name forwards. Now, she didn't have to do that, and it was but that was very kind of her, and she did that. And then Marvel got in touch very shortly. I believe it was the next day. And I still had to come in for that audition and to show that I was physically capable of doing what they wanted to and meet the requirements, and do things that I hadn't done before and see how well I could fare under those conditions. And if I can fare well under those conditions, then the look that I have and the skills that I have are in direct correlation with what they want.
That's right.
So that's very important. So whilst you don't wait next to the phone, you are still working on your own craft. You're still. So I still, in my spare time, I still work out. I still train, and I my intensity is very high, just so that when it comes to the conditions of the film set or the environment, I'm able to adjust accordingly.
Well, that's great. Again, for those of you that aren't in the performing world, you're not actors, you're not looking to be on stage, part of the reason why I want you to listen to this presentation is because irrespective of whether you are an actor, you're an engineer, you're a carpenter, it doesn't matter. Everybody goes through an interview, an audition, because people want to see who you are and what you're all about.
Right.
And within that context, everybody is having to perform. But what you are doing whilst listening to this presentation is moving out of the box that you're in. In other words, you will hear things about, this is how these people go about making presentations. so that this is the way they do it. Maybe I could do that too. And I think that where we are now, post-pandemic, because these lockdowns that have taken place over the last 7 months are insane. Every single business sector has been touched. You've got the airplane industry, so Branson's in problems. You've got people that work in offices, and so when the office closes, the sandwich bar next to the office is the domino effect of all of the businesses that have been hit. And if you look at people that are actors will maybe do one job, and then they may have another career that they run concurrently. And what you have is a lot of safety nets have been pulled away from people.
It's very true.
So what we're looking to do in this presentation, and what I'm looking to do with this presentation is this. I am looking to put you in a situation where you can see that there are other avenues, but maybe someone has to kind of push your head in a direction so that you can see these other avenues and you could go, right, now that makes sense. Okay, now I said to somebody yesterday that I believe we're in what you might call a fireman's opening position. And what I mean by that is this. Once upon a time, before the fire brigade came into existence, firemen were private contractors. And so fire provision or fire prevention was not dealt with through taxes, where you could phone. If in America it's 911, if you're in England it's 999, and then the fire brigade would turn up. What you have are people who you would call, like you would call a plumber or an electrician. And what has happened now with the pandemic is that all of the businesses have been closed. Established businesses that had a quite good footing have disappeared. And so if you can be the person that is answering a question that is being asked, which is the way forward, then you now become someone who is, I'm going to say, in demand. Now, what that means, I believe, is that somebody has started the fire. So we've got this pandemic, and now everybody's looking for an answer, in other words, a fireman. So we have got three problems, I believe, with regards to the job search. There is the CV or the resume, the thing that you use to get yourself known. And I say it like that, the thing that you use to get yourself known. CVs, I believe, it's not so much that they're low on the totem pole, but when John said that you were in Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and Furious, that's a brand that everybody knows. It's like, oh, wow, that's, But why I am pulling on the Hobbs and Shaw thing is because in exactly the same way, if people say, oh, Derek, I understand that you're working in the college in Oxford. Yes, everybody knows where the college is. So it's not, I'm having to explain an obscure entity. And you have to decide to use your social media as a means by which you can pull your head above the parapet so that people can see you.
Yes.
Like a CV, it's a means by which you get seen.
Yes.
Now, go on.
I'd like to add to that because, so for those of you who aren't in the creative media industries, so I did work in education for a number of years, in academic support, pastoral support. I've always, so I've worked in a lot of different corporate jobs also. So I want to make this as applicable and relevant to you as well. And I think during lockdown, or should there be further restrictions and everything, I think it is absolutely essential to continue to upskill, if not for professional development, for personal development, because it all feeds into who you are. Now, as Derek said about your social media and everything, those are, if they are readily available and public and accessible, then you can really use that to your advantage and show off what it is you're doing. And so instead of, say, getting tagged in photos where you're absolutely wasted and partying, I think that's a very good avenue to show what it is you're doing in that time, because when you send out a CV, for instance, it's important. There will obviously, if let's say you were made redundant, and there is a CV gap, there's an employment gap
Yeah.
on your CV, then it's important to see what you did during that time.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
so whilst in the middle of, say, looking for other jobs, were you studying another language? Were you doing, did you look at programming or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
These are important because I think it's a very good evaluation stage where you can choose actually, okay, what the next step is,
Yeah.
and I think when you are in a position where you have a lot of free time, and let's say you're not as fortunate enough to work remotely
Yeah.
like some people, then your next step, you can't stop.
No.
You have to see, okay, right, what are the requirements of the jobs that I want to go for?
Yeah.
Okay, and what are my current skills?
Yeah.
And then you cross-reference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's essential. And if you're going for jobs where there are lots of people going for them, I mean,
Yeah.
I think retail jobs now, they're very sought after as
Yeah.
well, just because, and temping agencies as well. But I think it's important to show what you've done during these times as well. Like, so I know I have friends who studied a lot of different courses just online on, different MOOCs like Coursera and Udemy, and that just shows that actually during this transition period where things seem to have slowed down,
Yeah.
you are
Stopped.
still being productive. You are still
Yeah.
doing something with that time, and you can always put that on your CV, like despite
Yes.
the current circumstances that no one could foresee.
Yeah.
No one saw this coming at all.
No.
But despite that, let's see how you're handling it,
Yeah.
and you are upskilling, you are adding new strings to your bow. I think that's absolutely essential.
Definitely. I want to start. I want to just segue into teams. You need to find a group of people, a team that is going to work with you, support you. So it doesn't have to be a work-based team. It could be a group of people who are all going in the same direction, have a similar interest, whatever it happens to be, simply because a team of people can hold a motivation for a long time if you happen not to be the type of person that is, I'm not going to say self-motivated, that's the wrong way to say it, but you're able to keep your own momentum over a period of time. And the great thing about a team is that a team means you've got other people to rely on.
Absolutely.
The great thing about a team, if you really understand how teams work in terms of their dynamics, teams doesn't mean, there's somebody in competition to you. Now, I'm going to use us two as an example to illustrate a point. Right, we've known each other now for about 6 years, I think it is.
I think so.
Okay. And we've done a bit of filming together, a few little ideas, nothing. But when you went and you worked for the Olympic team for a period of time, and when I looked at your martial art, because obviously in the initial stages, I just wanted to feel someone who could do some martial arts. That's what it was. Yeah. And you were recommended to me, someone mutual friend. And because I had done martial arts a long time ago, I looked at what it was you were doing and I said, that's interesting.
Yes.
So I was able to dissect what it was you were doing visually and say, that works in a the code of your martial art practice.
Yes.
I said, okay, that's got some applications in another direction. And over a period of time, the way that it evolved was, I said, do you think you could do this? And really, I was basically looking at if your martial arts could be applied to virtual reality and a few other things. And the answer was yes. Now, a number of years later, it has become this thing called martial arts intelligence. And in a nutshell, there's a project that is being put together where your martial arts can be used to train a Jason Bourne type of agent, and that's going to be given to whoever it is. That's what we're looking at. Yeah. But the point is that because you are the martial artist, and I'm the person who sometimes holds a camera, we are not in conflict.
No.
There's a synergy there.
Yes.
And what should happen with a good team is that if your team partners are right, everybody has got a strength. So there are people who I know who act.
Yeah.
And I can say, she's good because she can do this. She can nail it. You want her involved in the project, but she's not in competition to this person.
No.
And she's not in competition because everybody who is sitting around the table brings something unique. One of the problems why some people have problems with teams is because maybe the team is made up of a lot of people with, I'd call them competing skill bases.
Right.
I want to be the director.
Yes.
I want to be the and everybody's I want is competing. And so that team is on a road to disaster because there are too many people who want the same thing.
It's very true. I think team can stand for together everybody achieves more.
Yeah.
And another synonym of team is mutual assistant group.
Yeah.
Which I like more actually.
Yeah.
Because it is by definition you are all working towards the same goal, but you just play a different role.
Yes.
You know, and let's say I go for a job interview or even an audition. I see the same people sat in these people sat in this waiting room with me. They're all going for the same job. Are they my competition? I mean, if I'm honest, the way I see it is, the organization is selecting the person that's right for the job. If I don't get it, then they're picking someone who is better suited for that job.
Yes.
So it's never personal.
No.
Ever.
No.
So is it a competition? Well, no. If so long as I give a good account of myself,
Yeah.
you know, if I come in prepared, that's very important.
Yeah.
And I think with what you were saying about the Olympic team, for instance. So, for those of you who don't know, I was formerly the sports psychologist for the Saudi Arabian national taekwondo team. So they sponsored their athletes to live in Oxford, and I got the call for that because of a referral. And so because I have a good reputation in Oxfordshire as a martial arts instructor, even around the UK and internationally, the fact that these athletes were getting sponsored to live in Oxford, they had the English lessons, they had the best strength and conditioning coaches, the best nutritionists, some of the best taekwondo instructors, and some of the best administrators. They're like, right, we need a performance and sports psychologist. Right, okay, let's take a look. And I just happen to fit the balance between being a good sports psychologist as well as a martial artist, and being able to combine those two, and so that was all through referral. Now, in terms of what you're talking about, virtual reality, so I did have to. Well, it was very low tech, but virtual reality was something, and that can come in many different forms. And what I used was. In fact, it was just crowd noises of YouTube. So sometimes the athletes would struggle. Well, they would always struggle when they were competing as opposed to when they were training. They're doing the same moves. They're still having to fight. No, it's just that the conditions are different. You know, so it was having to change the conditions of where they were training to match that of where they would be competing. So. One thing would be, I would tell them to close their eyes and listen to crowd noises every night, and just visualize themselves walking onto the mat. Feel the coldness of the mat on their feet as they slowly walk towards it. And they can even wear their training gear as they're doing this, just so that there's some weight. They're walking there, they see the crowd, they're visualizing the crowd, they can hear it. And it's actually very powerful because your mind doesn't know what's real and what's not. So if I describe to you eating a lemon, for instance, you know, you cut open a lemon and you eat a segment, you bite into that lemon and you feel all the juices hit your tongue and everything. I'm sure some of you who are listening have vacuum face right now, you know. So you can taste that lemon and it's not even real. So all your thoughts have a profound effect on your body. So what you think certainly has an effect on how you feel.
Yeah.
So I was using that to my advantage with these athletes, where I would get them to listen to crowd noises, and they would visualize walking up to the opponent, looking at the referee, looking at the audience, and it made it very real. And the baseball associations in the US,
yeah.
they used virtual reality for, I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks, and they saw an increase in decision making by the athletes by at least 30%, which is considerable within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, if you close your eyes and run a race from A to B, you're running from A to B, you're not actually moving.
No.
It activates all the muscles involved in that run.
Yeah.
So there is absolutely benefit to
your mind's sort of mental dress rehearsal.
Absolutely. I mean, your mind is there already. Your body just needs the requisite time to reach where your mind already is.
Yeah. Okay. Now, with that being said, and you can hear the paper rustling because I'm trying to go through the notes. What it is this: what you have just heard John say is that he got a gig as a tutor through a referral. That wasn't apply for a job. And part of what you are doing is you are looking to be involved in activities that raise your profile, but for something specific. So again, if you're a carpenter, if you're a bricklayer, if whatever it happens to be, you're looking to be involved in activities that raise your profile so that you're the person that comes to mind, in exactly the same way that with the examples that John has just given. He's the person that came to mind when someone said, we need someone to do this in Doctor Strange. We need someone to be the sports psychologist for the Saudi Arabian taekwondo team.
Yeah.
You're the person that comes to mind. If you're not in someone's mind, then you're out of mind, and out of sight, out of mind. That is true. That's a reality. Now, because you have got this podcast, you're listening for ideas, and you'll see that there are going to be a number of projects that I'm going to be involved with from the college. And each of those projects gives you the ability to be involved in activities that raise your profile. So there is a project that's called Reboot in the Arts. There's another one, Reboot in Oxford. There is an actors symposium for people that are involved with the theatre. There is BAFTAs So Spineless. We'll go into that in a moment. We've got the Martial Arts Intelligence. There's another one called Oscars So Wookie. Again, the imagery that goes along with these projects, you will see them on the screen if you are listening to the videoed version of the podcast. And then there's also a Star Trek project as well, where there is a fan fiction piece of work that is being put together for the Star Trek idea. And what that then enables the people that are involved in that project to do is then get a license from CBS with the idea that a stage show of Star Trek can then start touring. But the point that's being made here is this. There are different ways in which we carry ourselves through the world. Some people want to be behind the scenes and quiet. I have been behind the scenes and quiet for a long while. That's and you know that's where I've always been.
Absolutely.
And now I've said, no, I need to be a bit more upfront, put my face to some projects so that I now become, because the environment that we're living in now has changed. It has changed so drastically that it's I don't mean scary in the sense of scary or afraid, but there is a kind of like, wow, this is different. And so the rules of the past and the rules of the future don't hold anymore. Now, there are about 120 magazine fronts that you can download as part of this podcast, and you can look at each of these magazine fronts, because each of those magazine fronts is really the springboard for a set of talking points. So in exactly the same way that you'd go to a newsagent and you would look at the magazines and then you would choose what you think is going to be interesting reading, you can look at these magazine fronts and think, ooh, these would make interesting conversation points. And based on how many people turn up for which magazine they're looking at, that's how we then know which idea to focus on with regards to, we're going to do a conversation piece on this, we're going to do a conversation piece on this. And each conversation piece then becomes a podcast. But what's being said here is this, is that within reason you can learn how to navigate the subjects that you want to use to bring you to the public's attention in exactly the same way that you would use your CV to bring yourself to an employer's attention. The process is the same. You will go to a magazine or you'll go online and you'll see a job advert, and that job advert, you think, that suits me fine. And you then respond to that advert by one, filling in the online application or sending in your CV via email. However they've requested, you then respond to them. You don't have to wait for an advert to tell people this is what you're about. In other words, applying for one job. You could apply to 50,000 jobs at the same time, or 50,000 potential employers at the same time, by projecting who you are and what you're about. Now, I'm going to explain that point in two ways, by using you, Jew, as an example, and then using something that I'm doing, which is low profile, but I think it exemplifies the same idea. You're a martial artist, you have a certain look, and so within reason we understand that certain films that require this, you fit that bill.
Yes.
Okay. You put together a website that had photographs, that you not only had photographs, you had video footage.
Yes.
Right? And you had the profile about your skill base. What that enabled people who were looking for that to do was find you. If you didn't put together a website, because you said, no, I'm just going to go on Casting Call Pro, and I'm just going to get an agent. If you didn't put together a website, you wouldn't have got Hobbs and Shaw. You wouldn't have got Marvel. And I know there's a couple of other gigs that wouldn't have come because you decided to put yourself out there on the web, right? You're just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But the opportunities that you would have missed, that then gave you the ability to move on to something else, would have been huge. But you had to proactively decide, I'm going to put together a profile website.
Absolutely. And that was important because that's my online resume that I have complete control over. That's my online CV that's interactive, and it is, like even on all my social media channels, I respond to every comment. And you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening. I will say, so after I did ITV's Take Me Out, that was November 2015. Now, that was scheduled to come out in March 2016. Now, that weekend, so that week, I got a call from ITV saying, "Hi, we're producing the Brit Awards." I'm like, "Oh. How on earth did you get my number?" And they said basically it was because I had done Take Me Out, and they referred me because their teams talked to each other. They needed a ninja. So that's how I got that job, through referral. Now, it's like, now what I put on my website is, I've got a page about the Brit Awards, even though my sketch on that was, my appearance was short, but memorable, I will say. There's a page about it on my website. There's a page about Take Me Out on both appearances. I've got separate pages for that. And it's a labor of love. When I put something on my website, it's because I had a great time on it, and this is what I learned from it and everything, and here are the photos, here's some of the videos, so that anyone who ever comes on to my website and navigates to, well, they're looking for something specific or whatever, it's easy for them to find, for one, and also it's they can see that I'm able to do that job. Now, what I will say is, if you are, say, applying for a a corporate job, okay, don't send out the same CV. No. So find out as much as you can, and this is, you can extrapolate this to acting as well, and I'll come to that. So when you are applying for a job, do not send a generic CV because they'll see right through it.
Yeah.
I think with the application process, go all out.
Yeah.
Some people are lucky and they just whip something up and send it over and they get called for it. But we can't all depend on that luck. It's like, so what I'd say is find out more about the company, what they've done recently, so that you can talk more about it in the interview. Have they done charity work? What is their brand awareness activities? What have they done recently? And there's loads of that. You know? It's like if you want to work for a charity, then see what they've done recently. You know, and then that comes in handy as a talking point in an interview. Should you be selected for one? Now, even with your cover letter, when you're applying for a job, respond to all the essential and desirable criteria as if they were questions that were asked of you to respond to in the cover letter. When you go into the interview, should you be selected, do the same thing. So imagine that criteria is a list of questions that you now need to answer. So how can we then extrapolate this into an audition? Right. With an audition, what happens is you go in and they might tell you to read a few lines and then that's it, you're out. Okay. I would find out as much as you can about the project first. Okay. Even if they say, right, you are, they're looking for, and even if there's no information about the project at all, the only thing that you have to go on is what kind of role you're going to be doing. So if they're looking for, on the spec, they're looking for a mechanic looking kind of guy. There are so many resources out there, tutorials of, by mechanics, see what they do. That gives you an insight into that kind of role. So then when you go into that audition, you've done more prep than some of the other guys. And I would say if nowadays, if you're doing self-tapes, do as many takes as you need to. Don't just but it's also finding the balance between getting the right take and actually overthinking it. So there's a balance there. So one self-tape took me 84 takes. But I gave a good account of myself and it got better as I practiced it. And I thought, right, okay. And here's the thing, when you are practice makes perfect. When I send through an application for a corporate job, I've not only written that cover letter, I've rewritten it. I've rewritten my CV accordingly to that particular job. So that's what I can do. I have a generic CV that I can then customize. But my website is constantly being updated. Constantly. So as soon as this particular podcast interview gets released, it's going on my press page. And my press page, I have all my newspaper appearances, articles that have been written about me, as well as all the interviews I've done this year. And this will be my 8th or 9th this year. So it goes top of the list. So that is constantly being updated. Now, it doesn't matter if that doesn't get so many views. The people who might think of you, okay, they will be looking for specific things on your website, or they'll be looking for specific things on your social media. Are you able to do this? So this person might have a fantastic look, and they might bring this person on, and then, oh wow, this guy can't act. It's so I think it's important when you have downtime that you constantly not only work on yourself and work on your skills, but update what you currently have. It's like, I know a lot of actors are constantly updating their show reels, which is great. But it's like, so during lockdown, for instance, everyone had to stay at home. Maybe you don't have access to a film crew and everything. So what can you do instead? Okay, think about the kind of role that is going to make you what people will know you for. Okay, what's stopping you? What is stopping you from writing something? Because we're all creatives. If we're creative, then it's not just being. I think it's important to work in different roles within film. I was doing audio. I was doing the sound whilst having to direct once because there was a crew shortage. Boy, did I learn lessons from that. And boy, did my appreciation for sound design and audio quality and mixing in post-production, my goodness, I realized just how much work goes into that. Or if it's writing, actually, there's a lot of skill that goes into that. And then, whether it's script writing or songwriting, constantly being able to churn out quality, material.
Yeah.
That takes practice. That didn't come overnight.
No.
So, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just got to take the first step and work towards that.
Right. I'm going to jump in and say something with regards to what you just said there.
Yeah.
A number of years ago, I was asked to be involved with a project. This project that I'm going to speak to you about now bears a lot of significance with regards to how you, as a listener, are going to be earning money in the not too distant future. Right, so a number of years ago, I was involved with a project that was actually given £250,000 to set up an educational project in the city. And the project went under two phases of management. It's really that simple. And I'm going to say phase one of the management was good, and I'm going to say phase two of the management was bad. And the reason why I think I can say that is because phase two of the management didn't bring the project to the goal that the money, £250,000, was intended to fulfill. So people didn't give you a check for £250,000 for nothing. There was an intended end result. Now, with the project failing, I was able to look at the project and dissect the failure. And where we are now in a pandemic where you need something to work, I am taking the mistakes of the project that failed, that the government had put £250,000 into, and I'm saying, right, okay, where are the failure points in that project? And if you can overcome the failure points in that project, you can use your knowledge of why a project will fail to give it the robustness it needs to succeed. Now that we happen to be in a pandemic,
Yes.
You need things that are going to work. Now, when you go to the magazine fronts that come as part of this podcast, you'll see one that says something like a National Audit Office says Britain's going to lose 26 billion. To get Britain out of the mess that it's in, the country has invested a lot of money in businesses, propping businesses up. And a lot of the money that they have given away has been fraudulently acquired. So Britain is looking for projects that can work, because if the projects can work, then they know what to invest in.
Yes.
Okay. Now, to use a film analogy, for those of you that are in the arts, to use a film analogy so that you get the idea. Everybody knows that when you're looking to make a low-budget film, making a low-budget film can be difficult, because really there's no such thing as a low-budget film. You need to pay people who are going to be your sound people, someone who's going to be the camera operator. You need a camera that's going to have a certain spec so that you can get a certain type of visual out of a camera. There comes a point where there's no such thing as free. You can get favors, but there's a point where free only goes so far.
Right.
Okay. And so in this film making industry, the two films that have been, or the two formats in making film at a low budget that everybody loves to make a beeline for, one is a film called 12 Angry Men, and the other film is Rope.
Right.
12 Angry Men is really 12 people speaking about making a decision about a judgment, because it's held in the courtroom, where 12 men are basically having an argument about whether or not somebody is innocent or guilty. And the whole film is based around that. Now, the reason why 12 Angry Men became a standard for low-budget filmmaking is because you could make a film in one room with 12 people having an argument. The only scene that takes place outside of that one room, one location, is the one in the courtroom. So if you're someone who's putting together a film, you just need two locations, the actual courtroom and then the room where they have the deliberation. So that's cheap. Then the other film is Rope with Alfred Hitchcock, and it's a way in which he could basically film a stage play with minimal cuts, Now, again, I know there are two audiences listening to this, but hopefully those of you that are kind of listening in can get an idea. So when you look at this film Rope, it's James Stewart and Alfred Hitchcock, you'll see a movie that is made in a certain way where it doesn't cost a lot of money. So when you look at, say, Fast and the Furious or the Guy Ritchie film, Gentleman, that you're in, that's a lot of money. That's locations, that you just need a lot of stuff. And you can see why a film can cost millions to make. So when we go back to these films, 12 Angry Men and Rope, we understand that these films as formats are kind of cheap to produce, relatively speaking. A number of years ago, there was another film format that came out, and the film format is called Dogma. It's by a guy by the name of Lars von Trier. Now, there's a reason why I'm giving you all of this technical stuff for those of you that aren't involved in the film industry, because this is part of this $250,000 that was given to this project in Oxford. So when I read the article about Lars von Trier makes Dogma films, and this is the spec for how you make a Dogma film. A Dogma film, in a nutshell, is basically your seaside video. That's really what it is. You don't need no tech equipment. You don't need nothing special. All you need is a little video camera and people who are willing to act and be spontaneous. Now, I'm really reducing it down to the ridiculous. But what I'm saying, I'm making a difference between anybody can make a video where you are going to tape your day at the beach. Anybody can do that. Right? That's not about technical. And what the Lars von Trier Dogma style was about was looking for the inspiration in the art. Now, we can all get but the point is this: it was another format that for a while was fashionable. And it not only was it fashionable, but it was so cheap that anybody could do it. So I decided to make a film using the Dogma style, basically seaside video. These other people looked and they didn't know what I was doing. They just thought, Derek's making a film, we're going to make a film too. Right? I wasn't making... you know me, Ju.
Yeah.
I don't expend energy on a lot of things that I can't pull off. Because making a film on your own is difficult.
Absolutely.
So when I saw this Dogma style, I said, I can fulfill the Dogma requirements. And so I was using a high-tech camera to make a Dogma film. And I've got all of this footage. But the point is this: when the project changed management and these other people said, we're making a film because Derek's making a film, they didn't know why I was making a film. I was making a film because I was following the Lars von Trier way of doing things. And so my stuff came within that Lars von Trier template. That's what I was doing. That footage is now going to be able to be used again for this idea called The Talking Dead.
Yes.
Some of it I can use it for that. Because The Talking Dead, for those of you that are listening, you can get involved. If you're an actor or you're looking to get involved in, you can be involved in this Talking Dead project that we're involved with, because it's a way in which you can be involved with filmmaking where the cost of making filmmaking is next to nothing. Now, the only reason why I could come up with, in the same way that I identified your martial arts, said, that would work with this. Everybody who's making films understands Rope. Everybody who's making films understands 12 Angry Men. And everybody understands why those filmmaking formats are cheap. When Lars von Trier turned up with his Dogma thing that was trendy for a while, it's not trendy anymore. But everybody understood that they could do that. Dogma became swamped, and there was bad Dogma, so much that the format was just overused. But the point that's being made here is this: when you start moving into the world with your CV agenda, people aren't going to understand why it is you're doing what you're doing, because your agenda is going to be private to yourself.
Right.
So these people said, we're going to take over this project and we're going to make a film. They were trying to make a high road film with equipment that wasn't suited to that. Now, there's a politician, a then politician by the name of Ben Jupp. And Ben Jupp came to see our project. And I said to Ben, look, when what we're doing is finished, I'll send you some information. Now, I haven't had that conversation with Ben, but because Ben is now involved in finance, he's involved with finance for agendas that help develop communities. I can say to Ben, look, if you want to be part of the way in which we're going to be part of this build up Britain again, because they're all, I goes, look, do you remember when we had that meeting how many years ago? This is what you can do. And there's a conversation that I can have with him, which is a continuation of a conversation that I once had, with an understanding that this is the criteria that people understand they're looking for. Now, to bring that to an end, this is what I am looking to say to you. When you're putting together your CV, and it's what I'd call an open call CV. So I'll call your website, Shu, an open call CV. You put on there that you do martial arts, that you train people, and you've got your list of things. But you knew the type of fish you were trying to catch with your CV.
Absolutely.
Because of the things that you were including in it.
Yeah.
And in like manner, you, the listener, knows why it is that you're putting together your CV for the type of fish you are trying to catch. And the reason why there is no competition, just as like I've got a friend of mine, very good singer, was called to America, record company paid a load of money to fly him over to America to have an interview because we want to sign you to a record deal. That's what I mean by people calling you, not you knocking doors and hoping. If you put out the right type of material, then the right type of people will call you. So you're turning the I'm searching for a job frustration on its head by understanding the type of work it is that you're looking for and making the material that's going to facilitate the right type of people turning up at your doorstep, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, when you go online and you look at the information that comes with this audio cast and you look at all of those magazine fronts, I don't have to worry about the type of people that are going to be coming to the college and saying that they want to learn about PR, marketing and publicity. Because they not only have said that this is what they want to learn about, but they've chosen the very magazine front that shows them mental disposition.
Yeah.
And so when you're now in a conversation with the person who has chosen the magazine that they want to read, it makes everything very simple.
Right.
If you are involved with the type of teaching where you're hoping that you get a good class, you're hoping that people are going to, you're hoping, then the problem with that is you haven't really been very clear with what it is you're looking to do. Because you are, and I'll go back to you, Zhu, and this is just so that the listeners understand what it is I'm trying to say. Because you were looking for a certain type of film work at a certain type of level, the CV that you created, your online presentation that you created, had the ability to give you the inquiries so that when people were casting for a film that needed your particular quirkisms, and I'm going to use those.
Yeah, of course.
Use that word. Your particular quirkisms. If somebody was looking for you, they would find your needle in the haystack.
It's creating that niche for you
There you
as well,
go.
and your unique selling point. It's
That's
like
the one.
Your own personal branding, and I think so when I was studying marketing, I realized just how important that was. I mean, even if I wasn't going to work for a company in marketing, how can I get myself out there more?
Yes.
What skills can I take? So already that's something that you can start doing.
Yes.
Now, if something doesn't work out, for instance, like what you said, it's like if something fails and you take the lessons from that. Now, I think it's essential to reflect and evaluate. So now, some of the, I think all the assignments at the university I used to work at had a reflective element to it. What went well? What didn't go so well, and why? What would you would do differently, and why? What lessons have you learned?
Yeah.
Now, some of the students hated that, but here's the thing. If something doesn't work out, I would never advise someone to reflect instantly because you're too close to be objective.
Yes.
Give it a bit of time.
Yeah.
Okay, meditate on that, if you will. And then once you're nice and clear to come back to it objectively, then you can reflect on it more objectively and see what went wrong and why. And you won't be as hard on yourself.
No.
And I think if you give it a bit of time for it to sink in and accept what's happened, this hasn't worked out, or like for instance, I'll give an example. There was a job that required management, recruitment, finance, marketing, teaching, coaching, counseling, conflict resolution, security, and yoga.
Okay.
Okay, I mean
That's a very weird requirements list.
and IT skills as well. So
Okay.
there was 11 criteria. So the list was extensive. Now I met 10 of them. I didn't have the yoga. I
okay.
didn't get the job. All right, but
Right, yeah.
I'd love to meet the guy who got
Yeah,
shortlisted for
definitely,
the job.
yeah.
But that's okay, you know, it's because they're looking for someone who was specific to that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a problem. I didn't
Yeah.
take that personally.
No.
Maybe a little.
Yeah.
But that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
Like if I do an audition and I don't get the job, that's okay, you know. And a lot of other actors, when I'm there with them, you know, it's always an unspoken rule. Hey, I hope I get it, but if I don't, I hope you do.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like. Sometimes you'll go into the audition, or you go into an interview, and you might know the people who are there. You know what I mean? The same people going for the same kind of jobs
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's fine, because they're looking. The organization is looking for the right person for the job. Okay, the right one will come, and
Yeah.
there's plenty of opportunities out
Yeah.
there. It's just timing
Yes.
of that, and
Yeah.
not only where the economy is at, where the company's at, but also where you are at.
That's the one.
So it's like if I'm in my off season, for instance, I'm not in summer condition. Okay, you know, I'm not in the best shape that I could be in. But you know, I'm in decent shape or whatever. And then there's a role for guys who look a certain way. And on my best day, that's what I look
Yeah.
like. But it's going to take me a few weeks, a few months to get into that shape again. What's keeping you from being in that shape? I'm using physical shape as
Yeah.
as an analogy, but what's keeping you in that? You know, what's stopping you from staying in that mental shape? You know, you have to keep evolving. You can't stop at where you're
No.
at and be satisfied with what you've accomplished already,
Yeah.
because that's already happened. You need
Yeah.
to continue to develop your own skills.
Yeah.
And for instance, someone said to me, "What do you know about spiral dynamics?" And I said, "I know nothing about that." He says, "Okay, what are you doing about that?" I'm like, okay. All right, there's a knowledge gap, you know.
Yeah.
So I might read into it and see what it is, see what it's about and everything. And if it interests me enough, then I'll delve into it further. If it doesn't interest me, well, what I'll do is I'll read about it so I know enough.
Yeah.
And that way, I'm never afraid to say this in conversation, where I say to someone, look, I haven't done nearly enough research to engage in this conversation
Yeah.
objectively and critically. So I think I need to arm myself to do that. And that shows humility and modesty as well. Now, when it comes to developing your own online presence and CV and everything, it's important to express what your strengths are. You know, I think it's very important to sell yourself.
Yeah.
At the same time, what you're not so good at, what are you doing about it? You know, what are you doing about that? For instance, I can't play piano and sing at the same time. Not very well. Never have been able to. I can sing quite well, especially in the shower. I'm very good in the shower. In the car as well. I'm also, well, on the piano, I'm fairly decent. When you put those things together, okay, how good am I? You know, it's like, I play
You're not
less
Elton
well.
John yet.
No. I play less well on the piano so that I can sing better, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's something that I've been working on, and I can do it fairly. Where I am now is miles better than where I was before, because I've worked on that. So areas of improvement should never be something that is daunting, but rather something that is an opportunity. So I regard setbacks for a project that I was producing, actually. So I was funding a feature film that was going to be filmed in September of this year. Due to everything else, that's now been pushed back to next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the questions that me and the production team got was, what are we going to do until then? I'm like,
Yeah.
so, okay, you know, you've got other projects to do. You know, you can't just wait a year for that project to happen.
No.
You have to stay busy.
Yeah.
It's like so the fact that Marvel Eternals was meant to be out this November.
This
then it got
November,
pushed
yeah.
back to February, now November next year.
Yeah.
Right, that's... The first thought is, that's frustrating as heck.
Yeah, because you've got some good PR for the back of it.
Right. So what am I going to do until then? Right. I'm going to do some writing, I'm going to do some producing, and do some acting where I can, okay, write some roles for myself, because everything I do this year, I want to come out next year.
Yeah.
Everything I do next year comes out the year after.
Yeah.
So I can always churn out stuff, I can always
Yeah.
release new content, and that content has to be good.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, you know, you might not, I think it's important to put out stuff that you're proud of as
Yeah.
well. I mean, like some of the, if you follow me on Instagram, for instance, or YouTube, you'll see that some of the piano videos I put out where I'm singing, I do state how many takes it took. You know, I think there was one that took 124 takes, which it ended me, but I had to do it, and
Yeah.
that develops some kind of resilience and grit, which is very much what you need. Especially when the answer is no.
Yeah.
So I would always say, when I'm updating something, it's like, so this film that I was producing has now been pushed back a year. Okay, fine. Or this, Eternals has been pushed back to November next year. That's fine. That gives me now until then to work on other things, so that
Yeah.
once Eternals is out and I get the publicity from it, people can see, oh, he's also done this.
Yeah.
He's also done this.
Yeah.
So it gives all the past projects more
Yeah.
publicity,
Yeah.
and gives my future projects more publicity.
Yeah.
So everything that I do now, okay, and everything I'm working towards now matters.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that growth mindset of, right, I'm going to put everything into this, and then I can release it as and when. It's like I released a piano album and my book on the same day, and it was a video that took me 8 hours to record the video and edit it, and
Yeah.
so I'm not so much of an editor,
Yeah.
but I had to learn.
Right.
I absolutely had to learn. So if I can't get someone to edit, maybe I should learn how to edit that. Already, that's a skill.
Yeah.
Okay. If there is a setback, right, what can I do myself now to resolve that, or go around? Okay, what other jobs that I was going to do? What areas of that can I now work on, so that once I come to doing that, I will be more proficient?
Can I interject something?
Please, yeah.
There? Right, because you just used the term growth mindset, and this,
Yeah.
we're going to be bringing this to an end soon. But the very first job that I had when leaving college was working for the area health authority. They had a print room, and they needed someone who was a reprographic artist, and basically what that means is someone who preps visuals for printing. So that's not a graphic designer. Okay, so I might be in the dark room getting stuff ready.
Right.
But the point that I'm making is, and the reason why I got that job is because I used to make posters for basically events.
Yeah.
So people would ask me to make posters. And my first set of posters were pretty rudimentary, and then over a period of time they got better. I have done record labels and CD covers and things for people. But my very first job, I got that because I had a portfolio of things that I made for basically event posters.
Yeah.
If you now look, everything that you see that is associated with me doing the marketing, publicity, and whatever at the college, all of those magazine fronts are all designed by me.
Yes.
They have nothing to do with health-related, health authority, government type visuals.
Yeah.
But there's a definite growth, there's a change, and so on. But the design service, the design facility that I have, facilitates me being a tutor. Because I don't have to go to a designer and say, will you put something together that represents this? Because I can be on my computer and do it myself.
Right.
And everything that I've produced is all industry standard. I have got a illustrator who is based in Italy, who has designed this Yeti monster that you see on this.
Oh yeah, I know the one.
Right, okay. So things that aren't within my skill set, I get other people to do, right? But the point that I'm making here is that if I am going to represent an idea, or if I'm going to push forward an idea, I have the skill base to be able to do that. When you look at all of the and when you look at all of the visuals that I have used to put together so that people can be involved in material for this virtual teaching, that's about £15,000 worth of artwork.
Yes.
If you were going to charge it for man hours and you were going to go to a design shop and say, would you put together these things for me? That's £15,000 worth. Most people ain't got that kind of money.
No, absolutely.
So what you are looking to do, part of what will happen as you start to put together your CV, and I use the word CV very lightly here, the way in which you represent yourself, is that your CV over the years will change.
Yes.
So looking at your CV is martial arts, you've got your visuals, so you had to become the martial artist who could be filmed.
Yes.
Right? So and there's a video on, when I last looked at your website and you had this girl on it, and I said, who's that? And then you told me that you had put that together in a day.
Yeah.
And I said, what, you taught the girl to do that in a day? And I'm going, really? But the point is that is part of your CV. So what I'm saying here is this: everybody who is listening to this presentation, your CV will go through a number of changes.
Yeah.
And those changes over the next week, month, 6 months, year, 2 years will evolve.
Yes.
In your world, your CV is Hobbs and Shaw, it's The Gentleman, it's, those are the names that you're putting.
Of course.
In my world, my CV is, because I'm not a designer, I don't call myself a designer. I'm a layout artist.
Yeah.
Right? But in my world, my CV can be based on, I put together that magazine front. Yeah, I shot that video. I edited that. Now, that's not the skill I'm selling. Those are the support skills that are needed for me to put together my CV.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Now, so if someone says, could you make us a video? I say, yeah, I can, but that's not what I do.
No, that's true, because I think with... I wouldn't be able to do the things that I've done or have the doors open for me if I didn't have the martial arts skills.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like if I didn't have the background to do something, I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't have the opportunity to work in it.
Yeah.
So that takes me on to why you should be honest about your skill set.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people may be a bit dishonest with... And I use that term lightly. Some people might be blatantly...
dishonest,
And I think that's down to integrity. It's if I don't know something, I won't pretend that I do.
No.
If someone shows me a martial art technique that I've never seen before, I'll admit it. I won't pretend that I knew it.
Yeah.
And then take credit for teaching it later.
Yeah.
I would never do that. If I don't know, I don't know it. And I think if you have... some people on their CVs, they might write certain things. It's like for instance, my Spanish is very basic. So is it even worth putting that on my CV? No. So, but my French is pretty decent. Okay, it's conversational. I'll put that on because I've got a working knowledge of the paradigm. I know how it works, and grammatically, and I can learn more, and it is constantly growing. Cool. And okay. So I can put that there, but I won't exaggerate to the point where it's absurd. And two, you're going to get found out.
Right.
It's like I never lie or do anything that could hurt my future just because I want to do something now.
Let's put it this way. I called somebody out. There's a guy who his face comes to my mind. And I said, you lied to get that job.
Right.
And he outperformed me in an interview, but he had to lie to outperform me in an interview. He became part of the team, and that's the reason why that project, $250,000, folded, because somebody was part of the team who shouldn't have been there and couldn't walk to the table with the skill set necessary to pull off the agenda that the $250,000 was invested for.
But that they said that they had in
yes,
the interview.
but they said that they had it. But the point isn't really about that, because obviously from the point of view of the individuals listening to this presentation, what I think we need you to come away with from this presentation is that we know that the lockdown in England is basically going to be 12 months, and which is insane. The amount of business leaders that I've heard on BBC Radio 4 speak about how the country's spiraling out of control, businesses can't be on lockdown for so long, and so on and so forth. The amount of business leaders that we have heard speak about how bad things are is the barometer. You're sticking your finger up in the air and seeing how bad it is. We understand that there are a lot of musicians. There was a big musicians protest in London yesterday, and there were a lot of musicians saying that 85% of them are looking for hardship funds. 85% of the professional musicians in Britain are going through, looking for hardship funds. That's insane.
Yeah.
So when you have those kind of numbers, we know things are bad. There's Andrew Lloyd Webber, there's the Fleabag lady. They're all some of them are raising money for theatre-based projects to put in place money. What I am saying is that I think that as bad as it is, which it is bad, theatres are closing, West End, Broadway, all of regional theatres, local theatres, everywhere's closing or closed down. Because as bad as it is, if you start looking at the way in which you present yourself to the world, so that you have got alternatives until things get better, I believe that actors, actresses, music makers have a different set of skills that they can present to the world as we now go through this new transition. And the reason why I say I believe that is because with all of these businesses going down, so outside of the theatre industry, outside of the film theatres, out of the arts world, with everything else that's going down, they're all going to be needing the types of support skills that bring to them, and I'm going to use this word because everybody's going to understand this, the audience that's going to buy from them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if you are able to do things in the online world that brings a company an audience, then you can get paid for that. And that's the way that it used to work in the old world of films and movies, where actors would be the Pied Pipers that would bring people in to the various companies. And where we're basically going now in this new world is that of audience development in the direction of business. So if you are involved with theatre projects and your theatre project can bring in an audience, the people that the Arts Council are going to be funding are going to be the people that can bring in an audience.
Right.
If you're involved with a film project and you can be part of the reason why the money's coming in your direction, then you're going to be the people that are going to get the money for the film project. It doesn't matter. And you can start developing those skills with business. So it just happens to be that right now I'm involved with a project. I'm involved with the Theatre Symposium. That's going to be bringing an international audience into this theatre symposium that's been set up in Oxford.
Yeah.
And if I can say to people, well, I was advising the person who set up the Theatre Symposium on how we can bring in an international audience, that becomes my current CV.
Yeah.
Because my old CV of, I've helped this person release this album, I've helped this, the old CV wasn't cutting it.
Right.
It wasn't cutting it. And because I've been looking after somebody who's got cancer, I have had a lot of downtime.
Yeah,
and that downtime has also been reflective time, and in that reflective time, I've been doing. And you came round and you saw something, and I remember you said, "Goes, oh, you've been busy."
Yeah.
Right. I had all of this stuff, and I'm going, yeah, because this is what I am doing.
Yes.
And so, by having this new way of presenting what I do to the world, or a different way, an updated way.
Yeah.
It's the magnet that is bringing people in who I don't know.
Right.
And it just happened to be that when the other John phoned me and said, would I be interested in teaching at the college? And I said, well, look, I'm working on something at the moment. It'll be finished. I had something to show him because it was something I was working on.
Yes.
And the people who he recommended me to can say, "Oh, that looks interesting," because I know that everything that they're looking at looks good. And the point is that I can pull off what I'm putting together.
Right.
I am not saying things that I can't do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not like one of the people that are going, you know, the government has funded an initiative and I want to lie and get the job.
No.
No. You have to be able to pull off what you can do.
You'll get found out.
Yeah, you get found out.
And here's the thing: the wrong people say the right things.
Yeah.
You know, so it's when you go into the interview or audition or whatever, you know, be honest, because it's all about integrity.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so when I used to work in security, for instance. If people would say wanted to pay me off to get in, even though they were banned, it was always integrity for you to do the right thing and refuse them entry and not take the money. You know, it's because at the end of the day, it's who you are as a person.
Yeah.
You know, and I know people who've done things that they may have, I don't know, like sold their souls, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they sold their souls, or you know, to get further and further and further. I promise you, at the very top, once you get there. You won't have a soul to enjoy what you would have enjoyed more if you had earned it the right way. You know? And I think I'm not saying that referrals aren't a good thing at all, because they are a good thing.
Yeah,
but
they're great.
It's like when I get a referral for a job, I still put in an application for it.
Yes.
Because it shows that I'm serious about it. So even though there might be a back door in for me, I still go I was like someone wrote a part for me. And you don't need to audition. Hey, you know what? Here's my self tape anyway. Yeah. Because I want it in the folder where all the other self tapes are. That's important to me, because I want to get the job on my own merit, which maybe my CV did give that. Okay,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I want to get it on the same terms as everyone else. I mean, in that. I'll still jump through those hoops. I'll still audition, you know, like, even though if this role is perfect for me, I'll still audition. I'll still, because I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's, it just so happens that it's more favorable for me,
Yeah.
you know, so that audition, that self-tape might be more of a formality, but you're still going through that because, you know, I think it's got to be fair at the end of the day. And, so for the most part, I think be honest, you know, it's all about your own integrity.
Yeah.
Constantly and continue to update your CV and continue to upskill yourself.
Yeah.
Learn about things that you don't know about. You know, even if you might be the best person at doing this, but you need to be a good marketer for yourself.
Yes.
If you're not going to work for a firm to do corporate marketing, fine. Learn how to market yourself.
Learn that's what I'm teaching, and it's
absolutely.
And the great thing is that one, it's free. We got about 3 minutes to go. One thing, it's free, and I'm making a lot of the materials that I'm doing available online for free. So even though I'm teaching at the college in Oxford, the point is that there's a lot of the materials that I make. You don't have to pay for it. There is no, what's the sign-up fee? There is none.
No.
Right? Because the online stuff that I've created for myself, I'm using those as my teaching resources for the people that are coming to a class.
Yes.
But there are a lot of people outside of class who are not in commute distance of Oxford who could use the same material. And I think to finish this off, when you said about updating and marketing yourself, I have got a friend, last year's Edinburgh Fringe Festival, she won one of the prizes there. She was sponsored by one of the theatres in Oxford.
Yeah.
And so her and a group of people, they went to the Edinburgh Fringe, they won. But she's also someone who's got a pedigree, because she's been on the BBC. So she's someone with BBC CV on her.
Of course.
Right. Now, what she's good at as a performer, you can't win an Edinburgh Fringe Award and not be a good performer.
It's true.
But she's not good on marketing. So I've decided, so we're putting together something.
Good.
And as a team, using the team thing, because she is a brilliant actress. It's like, I've seen her do things where, you know, she'll make you cry.
Yeah.
She can emote. And, but as a marketer, she and I've been saying, I go, but look, you've got to do this, and some people need help, right? Because marketing's not her strong point. So I can understand when people say, but you need to do stuff where you can kind of so I can bring you to an actress who has won awards, is going to be in America next year once we've got through this pandemic and so on and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying that she's the opposite of you, Zhu. She's different.
Yeah.
But the thing that you need to do to start getting yourself out there, which is the marketing side, some people don't know how to wear that handle. So if you need to form yourself into a group where you learn those skills,
Absolutely.
as good as you are as an actor or actress, if you are lacking in the marketing department, you can learn how to do that to some extent so you can take yourself forward. And fortunately enough, we've got some stuff that is online. As I said, like, it's free.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be near Oxford. You don't have to register at the college. You don't have to do anything. Just follow us on social media.
Yeah.
And when you hear it, see an update, just download what's available. And
The resources are there.
The resources will be there. And then with that, you can do something that can take yourself forward. And as you start learning these skills, the great thing is this, because the money is going to be going in the direction of people that can produce, and when I say produce, I mean as in bring a result.
Yes.
Marketing is going to be part of your results creation process.
Absolutely.
And so with you being part of the results creation process, you're now more in command of a ship. You're not someone who's just being thrown around because the wind and the waves are here.
No.
Which is where a lot of people in the pandemic at the moment feel they are, because they don't know where they're going. I'm not saying that everything's going to be rosy overnight, because we're looking to move out of this, but what I'm saying is that you can tool yourself up with the things that are needed, so that as we start moving out of this pandemic, you can start moving into an environment of having a bit more certainty about where you're going and why.
Absolutely, and I'd like to add to that, so whilst these times are difficult and uncertain, don't live in the shadow of your worst moments, and absolutely don't live in the shadow of your potential. The time to act is now.
Yeah.
So Derek, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, cheers. Well, I said, the idea was, let's get a word out there to people that are involved in the arts and other things, and let's see if we can do something to get people energized.
Yes.
So this is the first podcast.
Yay.
First of many, and what we're hoping is that if you follow us on social media, you can keep up to date, and as I said, there's going to be a load of free resources that you can get a hold of. There will be conversations that you can get involved with and you can learn, and with that learning comes you being tooled up to move to your next step. So with that, this is Derek James and my guest, Dr. Zhu Zhang.
Hello, thank you very much.
And we'll see you soon. Right, bye.